Welcome back to BBB Adventures and the Builder Series at Frank's Place. This episode will be a continuation of the project we started to refresh Luna, our 1962 Corvair Greenbrier camper van. We covered the scope and goals of this project in part 1 of this Lunar Refresh series, so if you're interested in what we're attempting to accomplish, you can go back and watch that episode. This episode picks us up on May 1st at Frank's Place as we continue our work on Luna.
What you doing?
She'll let you know. Hey, is that the right way?
Yes, I'm going to press the seal into this thing.
Is that the rear main seal?
This is the, well...
Front main seal?
Yeah, it would be sort of in a normal engine. You might call this the rear main, but because it's a Corvair and everything's backwards, it's the front main. But the crankshaft, this is the center of the crankshaft. Right there. Okay, this is the bell housing.
And this was the source of our major leak, right?
This was the source of our major leak. Oh yeah, this is going in a lot better than the last time I tried. Now the question is it fully seated?
Well, it looks good.
Why don't you take one of the old seals and put on there and tap it?
Oh, that's a good idea. I gotta go get a Tanya Hardy.
For those of you who didn't catch that, Brentley was quoting Derek from Vice Grip Garage. Take a look-see over at his channel. He always calls his hammer the Tanya Hardy.
Oh, that's looking good. See, what I'm looking for is to make sure that it looks like it's, uniformly installed.
That seal was made in Taiwan.
It can't be crooked or it'll leak.
Is there any way to test it? Probably not.
Put it all together, look underneath the driveway.
I see.
And if you see an oil puddle, it didn't work. Mary Beth inspected this, said the seal's properly installed, so if I get the engine all reassembled and back in the car and we're driving it and oil drips out this hole right here, it's her fault. I want everybody to realize it. Okay, got the seal installed. I got the lip inside the seal greased. I've got the end of the crankshaft greased. I've got some bolts set up with some anti-seize. I am ready to put the gasket material on. Install this gasket. Let's get this done. There it is, all installed. This is the seal that was leaking. Hopefully we've fixed that problem. But gotta wait about an hour and then I gotta torque these down to 20 foot-pounds. Then I can get this engine either on an engine stand or on a workbench. Start getting it sealed up. Didn't film it, probably should have, but used the engine hoist to get the engine after I got the bell housing on. Now I can work on the engine. So I got the engine up on this table, sitting on the bell housing. It's going to allow me to do all of the things I need to do to this engine to reseal it. So that's a big step of progress. I'm going to start the disassembly. I'm going to take the valve covers off, I'm gonna take the fan, I'm gonna replace the gasket under this housing, I'm gonna replace the gasket under this, the oil cooler gaskets. So I gotta take all that stuff off so I can start putting the new gaskets on. So that's what's happening next. Gotta take the fan off. There's 4 bolts to hold the fan on. There's this fan pulley, and then the fan. And this is the bearing. That one feels pretty good. Yeah, that seems good. Okay, I'm gonna set this aside because I'm gonna need to clean this up and paint it. Okay, set that there for now. Now I'm gonna take these bolts, take this cover off. So I took this valve cover off, and it's got a cork gasket, and it's really old, and it's just brittle, and I'm sure this was one of my major leaks. So it'll be nice to get that sealed up. I'm trying to decide if I got some bad things going on with this front housing. I may end up replacing the gasket on this front housing. I mean, it's never going to be easier than right now to replace that front housing gasket. So I probably should order one of those. Quick update. I continue to work on all sorts of stuff. Like I've mentioned before, I've got a million little projects going on. I got the engine here. I haven't really done too much to it. I finally have the parts I need to reseal this rear housing. And I still have to do the push rod tubes. So getting the engine resealed is something I can start working on. I think I have all the parts to make a lot of progress there. I've been preparing the engine compartment. I want to detail it. Let me show you what I've been doing. I don't know if you can see it, but there's somehow through all of this section of the engine compartment. Now remember, there's a lid that goes over this that covers the engine. The engine sits here. But there's been a bunch of this, I think it's undercoating that somehow got up here. So I want to repaint this part of the engine compartment, and so I wanted to get all that stuff off. Well, you have to just scrape at it. So I've been using some solvent, some paint thinner, basically mineral spirits, to soften it up, and I just have to scrape at it with this little knife. So I have done that to this whole surface, this whole surface, this surface over here. I'm gonna clean this up. I got a little bit of rust to deal with this, so I'm gonna clean this up. I'm gonna tape all this off. I'm gonna spray some primer, and then I'm gonna repaint this area. Yeah, so that's one thing I'm working on. Well, I've worked a lot of the day on this engine bay, but so I've got all of the undercoating stuff cleaned up. I've wet sanded it. I've treated this area this had some surface rust on it, so I've treated it with this rust treatment with some Loctite rust converter. But you gotta wait 24 hours to top coat it, so I think I'm done with this for the day. tomorrow I will tape off mask with some drop cloths or whatever, mask this area that I want to paint off, tape off some areas that I don't want to get paint, like that grommet for that wire, and yeah, then I will paint this, but that's tomorrow. Right now, I think I'm going to take the rear housing off this motor because I want to replace a gasket in here. So I'm going to switch over to continuing to disassemble the engine. These nuts go into studs, so sometimes I get afraid that when I pull the nut out, when I loosen the nut, that the stud will come loose from the case, which I don't, or the stud will come loose from the case, which I don't want, but that didn't happen, so I'm happy about that. This is underneath here is the oil pump, and I'm trying to decide if I'm going to take it off and replace this gasket. This is an oil pressure regulator. I've got a new gasket for that. There's a seal under here I'm going to replace, so I'm going to take this pulley off. It's press fit on, so I use a puller. I'm going to take this housing off, which separates right here, because I'm going to replace that gasket. So I'm going to replace that gasket, that seal. I need to replace the seal here where the distributor goes in. And then this top housing, I'm getting a new gasket there. This is where the oil cooler went. I got new seals there to put in. So I think I'm going to call a friend, phone a friend, talk to Larry about this and whether I should be screwing around with that. I don't think it's a common leak place, and I just don't see any evidence this one was leaking. So yeah, I think I'm going to pause until I get answers to that, because I want to be in a position to be able to pull this off, get it back on, get this part of the motor put back together. I don't want it to be tore apart for long periods of time, exposing the internals of the motor. So I'm in a holding pattern, typical. It's paint day. Paint day. Well, what have I done? I've got this all masked off, and I got this stuff. Let me step back so you can see what that really looks like. So I've got these drop cloths organized to minimize any overspray that I don't want to get on the van. And yeah, got it all masked off. I've wet sanded it, then I've wiped it down, and then I wiped it with this quick prep. So it is ready to put on the first layer of primer. I'm going to put on my respirator, and that's what I'm going to do. That's the primer. So now we're gonna let that dry. And then we'll put on our color. Okay, it's been about 30, maybe 45 minutes. And it's dry, the primer's dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on the first layer of the top coat. Okay, which is a paint that I got that I think closely matches to the original paint. So here we go. Okay, it's been 15 minutes. I'm gonna put on a second top coat. That's what it looks like. It looks okay. I'm not sure I like that nozzle. It's got sputtery, but I'm gonna call it done. Okay, I'm gonna take off. It's been a few minutes. I'm gonna take off some of the masking and some of this stuff so I can get a better look at it. Because I don't want to wait too long to take this stuff off. You want to do it while the paint is still a little bit pliable, so you don't peel the paint up. The color match isn't perfect, but it's close enough. Yeah, looks pretty good. Quite happy with it. Now I'm gonna not screw with it. I'm gonna let it cure, but I wanted to get the tape off and I've done that. So now I'll let it cure. Well, that was May 8th. Obviously it's past that now. We got some things we want to talk about. We were making good progress. I believe that we would have been on track to complete most of the scope of the Lunar Refresh in time to go to the Corvair convention.
Which we would be setting out right
Which
about
we
today.
would be leaving today.
Right about today.
Yeah, spoiler alert, the van's not done. We did make additional progress from the day you just saw, where I painted the engine bay. We did record a lot of that progress. That will be in subsequent next week, perhaps even one more week, Builder series. But yeah, we're not, we didn't make it.
Now, this isn't the only thing that's caused a work stop. The work stopped before our accident.
Yeah, something else is going on. We're going to tell you a little bit about the time we were filming today's episode. My dad started feeling not good. He was having some issues, and so we started going to a series of doctor appointments, which led to some testing, and ultimately he was diagnosed with an aggressive, rare, incurable form of cancer, and the symptoms were accelerating. The symptoms were getting pretty bad. He was getting pretty sick. Eventually, we were referred to the Huntsman Cancer Center in Salt Lake City. So we've been driving down to Salt Lake a lot. For those of you who aren't familiar with this area, that's about a 3-hour drive south of here. So we've been taking him down there. The good news is the treatment plan that he was ultimately put on has had a big improvement on his symptoms. So he's feeling better. And if it weren't for this, I probably would be back in the shop, back at Frank's place, working on the van. We wouldn't have made. We still wouldn't have gotten it done in time. Right. Based on the comments, I know that there are some of you out there that were planning on attending the Corvair convention in
Wisconsin Dells.
Yeah, in the Wisconsin Dells. I'm not going to be there.
because of this and because I'm continuing to help my dad. But
I'll be going.
she'll be there.
Yeah. That was a really, really tough decision to leave Brentley, especially now, and his father. But family, it's my family out there.
Her brother is the chairman of this event. Her whole family's involved. She needs to go out there and help them and participate. So she'll be doing that. So the few of you who wanted to meet with us at the Corvair convention, you can still buy her a beer. She'll still be there.
Please do.
But yeah, I won't be there. Our focus has now switched to Ragbri and coming up with a plan for Ragbri. We're working on something that may get us on a bike for at least part of the event. It really is going to depend on this. And this, let's give an update about this. We had a follow-up with the doctor yesterday, and unfortunately, the 8 or so days between the accident and the appointment, the shattered bones in my collarbone have moved further apart. They're now outside the range that they want them to be in order for them to heal without help. So tomorrow, I'm having surgery, and I'm going to have
another titanium
yeah,
plate.
more titanium screws and a plate to hold the bones together so they'll heal, just like I have on this side. So, I have a surgery tomorrow. Tomorrow is the day we'll be posting this episode, so while you're watching this episode, I'll be...
prepping for surgery.
Yep, I'll be under the knife, as they say. But, so, depending on 2 to 3 weeks after the surgery and how quickly I recover, will define our ultimate Ragbri plan. If things go well, we'll give you an update on what that might look like. If things don't go well, we're still going to be there. We just probably won't be participating. We'll be there and
cheering y'all on.
Standing from the sideline, drinking beer and waving, and with tears in our eyes because we want to ride. But yeah, I think that's the update.
Yes. Thanks for joining. Thanks for following us. Sorry to have to deliver such grim news, but that's life, right?
Yeah, this isn't going to be, the best summer of our life.
No.
That was last summer
Yeah.
when we were on the Apollo mission. So in contrast to last summer, this summer's eventful in a different and worse way. But we will get through this, and we'll get Luna done, and we'll get to Ragbri, and we'll continue to do whatever we need to do to help my father work through what he's working through. That's what you do,
Mm-hmm.
For this Saturday's BBB Adventures episode, we were originally planning on putting together what worked, what didn't work, what would we do different during the Apollo mission. But
we don't have it edited.
we're
yet.
just we got some progress made, but we just do not have that production ready. So this week, we don't really know what we're gonna do.
Maybe we'll show some scenes from New York before
Yeah.
we get to that lessons learned
Yeah.
video.
Yeah, she's leaving Friday for Wisconsin. My surgery's tomorrow. We have run out of time to put an episode together this week for Saturday's release. But we're still going to try, but it won't be the lessons learned. That's going to have to wait for another time.
We will do a series of Apollo mission epilogues.
Yep. Then we'll get back to the lessons learned, things that worked, things that didn't. That will be coming. Circumstances have just put us in a place where we just haven't had the time to get that done in the way we would want it done.
Right. But it will get it done. Thanks for watching.
Enjoy the ride.
Wear a helmet.
See you next time.